Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of September 2020. And not a ton of stuff, but definitely better than we were doing last month. So I'll just go through it. Now, the first thing up is, I think, no surprise. I think like every single person bought this game, and so we don't really need to talk about it, and yet there's so much to say. We got Super Mario 3D All-Stars for the Nintendo Switch. It seems in like every single group I'm in, everybody's like, you need this, and you need 10 copies of it. And the reason... Well, first of all, I think we all kind of know about this game, but let's just go over some of the highlights. This was a concept that people have been talking about for a very long time, like a fantasy idea, that Nintendo would do yet another Super Mario All-Stars collection like they did all the way back on the Super Nintendo, and then they re-released on the Wii minus a game. Another reason I always thought the Wii made questionable decisions. Anyway, so people were like, where's the next collection? It's been forever, whatever. And so the fantasy concept was things like Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine and so on and so forth, all being on one set. Then out of nowhere, really, in a Nintendo Direct, Nintendo announced exactly that. And then much to everybody's surprise, they said, oh, by the way, it'll be out in like 2 weeks. So it really was not a long wait once it was official. What was weird about this release was a couple of things, though. First and foremost, they said that the digital edition of this will only be available until like March 2021. Which, again, I don't support digital, so it's like, see, you don't own that. They're taking that away from you. That's not property. That's a rental service. But anyway, what happened after that is everybody went nuts for physical editions. Like, I've seen people buying like 10 copies of this, being like, dude, eventually it's going to make it rain bills, because they're going to be like, they need this game, and I'm going to have it, and I'm going to be able to flip it, whatever. Well, I'm sure there's some element of truth to that. Obviously, the digital expiration could actually change. They can always reprint copies. And to be completely honest with you, a lot of people look at it like it'll be really rare. It'll be this really valuable thing. It's kind of unlikely. And the reason that's unlikely is if you follow trends of what makes games rare and valuable, eventually it's usually because everyone forgot about it or ignored it when it was relevant, even if that relevancy period was very brief. Take a stadium event, it's a very famous example of that. It did have a release. Nobody cared. And so it just became this really rare thing eventually that people were like, wait a minute, I need a full set. What's this stadium event thing? I can't find this one anywhere. That doesn't work when everybody goes out and buys tons of copies of it. It means there will always be copies available. Expensive, yes. Rare, no. But regardless, if you bought it as an investment, you might make that back eventually. We'll see. Or you could have flipped it immediately. I don't know. But from everything I can tell, like Walmart, Target, Best Buy, they have all these in stock. It's not hard to find. So some people might have been hosed on that one. We'll see how that plays out down the road. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. That's certainly not why I got it. My copy's open. I've actually been kind of tinkering with it. I find it an interesting release. Not as complete as I would have hoped. I had no such delusions that they would have had a set that included like every Mario game ever made, even though really that I don't think would be all that difficult up to a point. It would have been nice to have like this plus the original All-Star set, since it's really just a Super Nintendo set. Like we're talking a couple of megabytes you add in there. That's really not that big of a deal. You could add some of the oddities, like some of the Game Boy releases, like a full Mario set. But then again, Nintendo realizes they don't have to do that. They can just do a couple, and everybody will buy it anyway. So you can't really fault them for that. So when it comes to the games that are actually on it, you have three. You have Super Mario 64, you have Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. You also have this bonus music track option, which I think is actually very neat to be able to listen to the scores for those games. It's too bad there's no way to acquire that music outside of the cart. At least that I'm aware of. It would have been very nice to download like a set, not like a pirated set, but like an official, like here's a link from Nintendo that says like here's all the MP3s of the entire Super Mario 64 score, which actually I don't need because I have an original CD of that. But my point is, it would have been nice to make that a little bit more useful than just having to listen to it on a Switch. But the games themselves, a lot of people were very disappointed that they weren't remakes. I didn't need it to be a remake, but going into the source code and properly porting it over to the Switch would have been nice. As it turns out, that's not what they did. They emulated everything, which really bothered a lot of people. It is kind of the lazier approach to this. So that's kind of unfortunate. They play solid, but remember, they are emulation. They're not going into the source and being like, okay, let's take Super Mario 64 and bring it over to the Switch. They're like, let's take an N64 game, build an emulator for it, and then throw that on the Switch. So it's hat on a hat. That's the traditional problem with emulation. But I have seen some amusing complaints about it because there are certain changes that occur in here. Obviously, the controller the scheme is different, that much they get altered. But beyond that, the part that bothers everybody about Super Mario 64 is particularly the speedrunners have been used to playing that one particular version for 25 years. But what they don't realize, or they realize it now, is that Nintendo didn't use that version of the game. They used the re-release version. What most people don't know is that in Japan, there was a second version of Super Mario 64. That version included a bug patch that eliminated a lot of the glitches. It also changed some of the audio settings, or not settings, but some of the audio dialogue things that would pop up throughout the game, and very notably, and the reason they kind of sold it to people was that it included Rumble Pack support at the time. That version of the game is the one they used for this, so that the controller would vibrate was primarily it, I'm sure, but that also included removing extra bugs to make it seem more special and upgraded when really it wasn't, because the majority of the audience that would play it would remember it being glitchier than it actually is, when in reality Nintendo's just cashing in on work they did 25 years ago. But hey, can't blame them. Super Mario Sunshine, from what I understand, wasn't really changed much. I've actually seen some people say it looks worse than the GameCube version. I find that unlikely, but that said, the GameCube with the proper setup does look stunning, so there could be an argument there, but I kind of find that unlikely. Super Mario Galaxy, this one I'm actually really excited about because I've never really played it outside of a few minutes, because famously, if you will, I do not like the Nintendo Wii. I do not like, particularly because of its control scheme, I just do not enjoy playing a game where I have to like waggle a stick around. It makes me feel like an idiot. I just really don't enjoy it. It doesn't, it's like regardless of the content of the game, it's like the fact that I can't just hold and play, I have to do this kind of crap, I'm just like, I'm out. I don't care. Like, that in of itself is just like, that kills any interest I would have. So, to Nintendo's credit, they gave that as an option in this version. So you can actually use a real controller and you have to waggle your arms around like a moron to play this game. So I'm actually excited to try that out. Now, this didn't include Super Mario Galaxy 2, and people don't really seem to know why. Originally, I speculated that it had something to do with file size allotments, but since we learned they were emulation, that really shouldn't have been a problem, so look forward to that release eventually. Either way, it's still a cool set, and I still enjoyed it. I'm glad it exists, and a whole new generation of kids can check this out, as well as man-children such as us. Good. Now, next up on the list, I got, once again, my Nintendo Wii U set is complete because I got Shakedown Hawaii, both the regular edition and the limited edition, which the limited edition is just the regular edition inside of a plastic case. Now, if you're like, wait, what? What is this? There is a brand new Wii U game, officially licensed, called Shakedown Hawaii. Now, the story with this game, from what I've gathered, is that this game exists on multiple platforms. It was on the PS4, the Switch, PC, just tons of, like, it's by V-Blank. Usually they make a couple of indie games and they just kind of scattershot them onto like every platform. And in this case, they had a weird story about this one. From what I've gathered, Shakedown Hawaii was never really meant to be on the Wii U. They were more interested in putting it on the original Wii. And they ran into a problem, which is you could, at the time when they were submitting the game, Nintendo was allowing original Wii titles to still be produced, but only in Europe. So there actually is an original Wii version of this. I actually have it. I showed it in a previous episode, but it's, PAL region locked, just for Europe, well, in Australia. But Nintendo of America and Nintendo of Japan ceased production on Wii content, so there was no way to do that. So according to their website, they said, okay, to appease North American, in particular Wii fans, the best we can do is make a Wii U version. So that's exactly what they did. They did not, however, do a Wii U version for Europe, which tells me that was really their aim, was to have a Wii version, and this was kind of like, sorry, this is the best we can do, because I don't really think they had that much passion about releasing a game on the Wii U. But there is one slight counter-argument to that, which is, so I know from the inside, based on my buddy Josh Prod, or Phil is his name, he did the previous two Wii U releases, the Shmup Collection and Finding Teddy Part 2 Definitive Edition, which I did videos on, actually. He told me that Nintendo had required that all Wii U games be submitted by December of 2019. What that means is your game has to be, programmed for the Wii U. It has to be done. The disc has to be submitted by that point, because after that point, Nintendo is no longer allowing the production of Wii U titles. So if that's true, and I assume it is, it would mean that this game was actually done all the way back then. It was submitted, and then after that point, Nintendo's like, okay, your game's done, here's your stuff. So in Phil's case, second he started getting the copies rolling in, he started announcing it, like as early as like January or February of 2020. He was like, all right, new Wii U games, I got a couple where this is happening. And like, we knew about it for a long time. And then they came out, and like a week later, V-Blank announced Shakedown Hawaii. So I'm kind of sitting here thinking their goal was to get a Wii version. They couldn't do it. Then they realized they could have the last Wii U game if they just kind of sat with, their hands like this and just kind of waited until Phil's releases were out. And then boom, now they have the last game ever released on the Wii U as well as the last game ever released on the Wii. The same game is the last game on 2 Nintendo consoles. And so I think that's neat. I find it unlikely there will be any other Wii U games at this point because, again, they would have had to have been submitted all the way back last year, and they would have just had to have been completely silent about it at this point. So I believe you can still get the regular edition of Shakedown Hawaii if you want to. This is the type of thing where it might potentially be rare at some point because it's such an uncommon thing. No one cares about Wii U stuff right now. It's a limited printing. That's more likely to pan out eventually in the long run as opposed to something like this where it was mass produced like crazy. Yes, there will always be people that will be like, I will vastly prefer to play this over this, and you're not wrong about that. But this is always going to be more readily available than this will be. That's collecting logic is weird. I mean, who would care about playing stadium events? You want to own stadium events. There's a difference. I'm not saying this will be anywhere near that. This is too widely marketed. But it's more likely to eventually be more valuable than that. That's all I'm saying. So moving on, with that out of the way, the rest of the stuff in the video was just sent to me under different circumstances, so let's get into it. This first thing that was sent to me comes from the Dreamcast Hub. Now, Dreamcast Hub is run by a guy named Steven. He's a really cool guy. I've met him at a convention last year, and I miss conventions so much. Yeah, so he contacted me and was just like, hey man, I've been kind of tinkering around with 3D printers, and I want to hook you up with something. And so I was like, well, if you're sure. And he's like, yeah, man, I'm sure. He's actually sent me a t-shirt in the past, too. And he looks way different than he used to. Now he's got like this full-time beard. I think he's like cloning my look. No, I'm just kidding. Let me show you this thing if I can ever get this incredibly well-packaged. Yeah, I just have to rip the cardboard here. If I can ever get it open. Yeah, he's kind of cloning my look. Yeah, grr. No, not really. Yeah. He, hell of a nice guy. So he sent me a couple of items here. Actually, he sent me an HDMI cable for reasons I don't totally understand, because that isn't relevant to what he made. But yeah, he's like, I got a 3D printer, and I'm tinkering around with it, so I want to hook you up with something. And he sent this. This is a Gdmu mount for the Sega Dreamcast. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this concept, basically, I have a Sega Dreamcast that has a Gdmu in it. Gdmu is like a little board. It's what's called an ODE, an optical disc emulator. You take the disc drive out, you replace it with that little board. That board has SD card support. So the idea is, as far as the Dreamcast is concerned, that thing is the disc drive. And if you put an SD card in there, that thing is the disc. So you can play games off of it instead of needing the original discs. It has various benefits, including, obviously you can archive and have more games on there than just one disc at a time. You also get improved load times, all that sort of stuff. The flaw with it is the Dreamcast wasn't really obviously meant to run things that way, and so it's just an awkward shape for the thing. You have to like reach into the disc drive and like kind of pull out, the SD card. It's just kind of awkward. The same thing exists with like the GameCube when you have the ODE in there. So in that case, I got a 3D mount, had it installed, and it just looks very flush and very clean. But I never had one for the Dreamcast. Now I do, thanks to Steven at Dreamcast Hub. And this is what's called an SD card extender. So you basically just plug this directly into the Gdmu and then just kind of install this in place, and you put your games in this one, and then boom, you're good to go. It's flush, it's nice. He chose a clear plastic with a little pink button there for the reset switch that's inside there. Again, I don't really know why he sent me a random spare HDMI cable, because it has nothing to do with HDMI, but maybe he was just sitting on spare cables. Thank you very much for that, Stephen. But I look forward to installing this. This is a really long extension ribbon, not ribble. But yeah, very cool regardless. So thank you very much. I'll put a link in the description to Dreamcast Hub. Check him out. Like I said, he's grown this big beard now. Kind of looks like me, big white guy with a beard. No, but he's in much better shape. Anyway, thank you very much, Stephen. Next up, this one is a bit of an enigma, and I had to like piece this story together based on what I think happened. This is a PS4 game, and I'll reveal at the end what the game actually is. So let me just tell it to you the way I figured it out. So one day I'm at my house, and I open the door, and there's an Amazon package down there. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I didn't order anything from Amazon recently. What is this? Is this some pre-order that I don't remember or something like that? So I bring it inside, and I'm just sitting there, like, trying to fit it together in my mind. Be like, did somebody say they were sending me something or something like that? No, I can't think of it. I don't know what this is. And so I eventually just decide to open it. And inside is a PS4 game. And I'm like, okay, well, that would make sense for me, but no, I didn't order this game. Like, you know, I'm sitting there just totally confused as to why this game was sent to me. And I look around inside, and I'm looking for, like, any paperwork. There's a receipt, but then there's also a gift receipt. And the gift receipt says, "A gift for you. Enjoy, brother, from Inkling." And then all of a sudden, it clicked. This is weird. This game, which, well, again, I'll show you in a second, came out a little over a year ago. And really, since it was, like, pre-orderable, Inkling has been commenting on, like, every single video I put out, like, regardless of context of what the video is. He's usually supportive of whatever I'm making, but generally the primary point of every comment he says is, "Yo, did you get blank game yet?" And I would always be like, "Nope, not yet. Nope, not yet. Nope, not yet." And it would just keep going that way. And I'm guessing he just got fed up and bought me the game and just had it sent as a surprise, because it was a surprise. Like, usually I tell people, like, "No, don't worry about it. You don't have to send me anything." This time there was no communication. He just did it. So thank you very much for that. But now, Inkling, when you watch this video and you ask, "Did I get Medieval for PS4?" the answer will officially be yes. I did get it. So thank you very much, Inkling, for hooking me up. It was just one of those things where he's like, well, if he's not going to do it, I'm just going to do it myself. You want something done right, you do it yourself. That's probably what was going through Inkling's mind. So thank you very much, Inkling, for that. I look forward to opening this up. And my understanding of this game is this is like a full-on remake of the original PS1 title. Now, obviously, I haven't played it yet. It has PS4 Pro support and all sorts of great stuff, so I've heard a lot of good things about it, too. Again, this is what people were, like, hoping there would be a Super Mario 64 iteration of, like, a full-on remake instead of just the emulated version. Personally, I was fine with this, but at least a source code port would have been nice. But a full-on remake also would be nice, Nintendo. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. We'll see how it goes. But regardless, very cool. So thank you very much to Inkling for this. Really was not expecting it. Now, speaking of something that I really wasn't expecting, because it really makes no sense for the context of this channel, is this little envelope right here, which also requires a strange story. This will be one of the most bizarre things that will have ever appeared on this channel, purely for context reasons, because it does not belong here. This adventure, if you will, starts on Twitter. There was some YouTuber I was unfamiliar with who had done some video on connecting consoles with different cables type of thing. You know, the kind of thing I do. And for whatever reason, Doritos, like the guys who make those chips, they promoted that, like, video. And nobody could really figure out why. And so somebody commented on it asking if that was me, because there's just some, again, white guy with a beard. We all kind of look the same. And I responded being like, "Nope, that's not me. Sorry." So they were like, and then it just started turning into, like, kind of a joke thread. It was like, "All right, well, Koralik, what would you sell out for? What snack food would it take for you to sell out completely?" And I just said, "Oh, Flip's chocolate-covered pretzels. I would totally sell out for those, because it doesn't matter how good your cables are. When they're so good, you'd see whole new colors." Like, it was just a joke. Like, the whole thread turned into a goof. It wasn't anything to be taken seriously. And then as it continues, the actual Flip's, like, company gets involved in the Twitter thread. And then they start talking to us about like what kind of video game we could make out of flips. And I started suggesting things like an augmented reality game you'd play on your phone. You know, you take the bag and you scan like a QR code or something on the bag of a flips can, and then you play a game like where it's like, you know, how many, like through your phone with the camera and everything, and just like somebody like with a digital bag of pretzels trying to like eat as many pretzels as they can and see who gets the higher score. Or like just something really basic that you would expect as a possible game in a back of a bag of pretzels. You know, nothing super complicated. But as we're just like goofing around as like this big thread of people talking, eventually the Flips guys just offer to send us some free pretzels. And so sure enough, that's exactly what they did. He sent me a bunch of coupons. And a note. So I'll open it up and show it to you here. Five coupons for Flips pretzels, which again, this all started as a goof. I was not really planning to sell out for chocolate-covered pretzels. But thank you for that. But at the same time, he also included this note that says, "Hi, Flips fan. Hey, Adam. Loved the banter about the Flips interactive game. We will be giving that some thought. In the meantime, enjoy these coupons for more Flips." Right, so like strangest, weirdest possible thing that has ever occurred on this channel, I've now somewhat associated with chocolate-covered pretzels. Don't ask me how. I mean, because I just told you, but also just why. Either way, it was meant to be a goof. It's not a real thing. I was not seriously suggesting that you should sell out for Flips or that Flips really make a video game. But hey, maybe they'll do it someday, and you're welcome. We'll all have bags of Flips games to play. I don't know. The internet's weird. And then last up here we have another thing. This comes from retrotowers.co.uk. I'll put a link in the description of these guys as well. I just did a video on the Nintendo 64 X7 EverDrive, which is a cartridge basically that allows you to put an SD card in it, play every single game ever made. Basically, that's the core idea. Did a whole video on it. However, the Retro Towers was not done with me. They decided to send me something else. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up and show it to you guys just kind of as a teaser, because this is going to get its own video at some point. So let's go ahead and check it out. This is the Mega EverDrive Pro for the Sega Genesis and Mega Drive. Now, obviously I haven't used it, just opened it up here. But this is another upgrade to the Genesis EverDrive. The one I have is like 10 years old, so I'm curious to see what the differences are. I know there's a bunch. But this was meant to compete more with like the Mega SD. This one has not only Genesis and Mega Drive support, I believe it has Master System support, 32X support, as well as the key feature, Sega CD support. So I don't know what differences exist with this versus the Mega SD just yet. I'll look into that. But yeah, this is a very cool device, and look forward to seeing a video on that at some point. But that's just your little teaser. But if you want to check it out, you can go to retrotowers.co.uk. In the description, use my name, Adam K, as a coupon code. Get 5% off of your order on this or anything else you want. Yeah, so thank you very much to retrotowers.co.uk. Thank you very much to Flips, not something I ever expected to be saying on this channel. Thank you very much to Inkling. Thank you very much to Stephen Robinson at the Dreamcast Hub. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.